Hello and welcome back to the Azure DevOps course. This lecture will be the first one in the Azure DevOps security section. In the Azure DevOps security section, we will talk about the Azure DevOps users and groups access control and applying the least privilege concept. So in this section, we will show how to give a group of users the least privilege of what they can do in Azure DevOps, and that to reduce the human mistakes and reduce the breaches and the threats. So for example, if a user has an administrative permission for the repos, he can by mistake delete a repo. Or if he has a permission to deploy to production, he can by mistake deploy a wrong code to the production, which will lead to great problems. So we are mitigating these risks by applying the least privilege for each user. So let's start. So here in the Azure DevOps course, if I come here to the project setting and click on permissions, here there is a default security groups for this project. Each project has a default security groups built in it, like the build administrator, project administrator, contributors, readers, and endpoint administrators. And by default, there is a group created by the project name, and it is a member of the contributors and the project valid users groups. So what is this groups? This groups includes a specific permissions. That default groups include a specific permissions. Like this build administrator has the administrative permissions for the pipelines and the variable groups and the release. So this build administrator can queue a build and edit a pipeline, can edit a variable group, can edit the environment. So this build administrator has a high permissions to everything related to the builds and the pipelines. The contributors also has high permissions, but it can't edit a variable group, can't edit a pipeline, but it can run the pipelines and can create pipelines. So the contributors has high permissions, but less than the build administrator in case of the builds and the pipelines. And for example, the endpoint administrators has the permission to view all the service connections and use all the service connections. So it is like administrator for the service connections. And here the project administrator has the full permissions for the project. It can delete the project, it can give permissions in the project, it can do anything in the project, that the project administrator group. And here the project valid users and the readers group. These two groups has only read permission in the project. They can't do anything except viewing the pipelines and viewing the releases, viewing the repo. They can't contribute with anything. They can't create pipelines, they can't create repo, they can't contribute with the repo. So they are only readers, the project valid users and the readers. So for example, if I click on the readers group, I can see here the permissions, and it has all not set. All these permissions related to the ports and the analytics and the test plans. The pipelines permissions are in the pipeline sections. So that is a general permissions for the ports and the analytics and test plans. So if you notice now, the readers group has a not set in all the permissions. In case of permissions, if I click here, we have not set and allow and deny. Allow and deny means allow the permission and deny the permission, but not set means that it can be inherited from another group. So if this group is member of another group, so here the reader is member of project valid user. If this reader is a member of the administrator, for example, it will inherit these permissions from the administrator. But if it is denied, it will be always denied. So that is the meaning of not set. Not set means that it can be inherited from another group. But if it is not set and not inherited, it will be treated like the deny, like it is denied. So if you remember in the introduction section, when we created the organization, we have added a user from the Active Directory, from the Azure Active Directory to our Azure DevOps organization. The Osama Said, this user, I added when I created the organization. So now this user is not member of any group and has the least privilege permissions. So I will try now to log in with this user and see his permissions. This user can only read and view the project. It can't create, can't delete, can't edit, can't do anything except the read. It has the least permissions. So let's try and log in with this user. I will open an incognito tab and log in with this user now. So now I have logged with Osama Said user. This user has only read permissions. If I go here to the pipelines, it can only read. I can't here run or edit. I can only read the pipeline and view it. If I try to run now, it will give me an error because I don't have any permission to run the pipeline. So now I will try to add this user to the contributor security group and see what happens. So here I will go to the contributors and add a new member. I will type here Osama Said, and add him. So now our user Osama is member of the contributors security groups. If I turn it back now and refresh, then go to the pipelines, now I can run the pipeline and can view the pipeline and can create a new pipeline. But I can't edit the pipeline. If you notice now, I can only view and run and delete, but I can't edit the pipeline because it is in the contributor security group. The contributor doesn't have the permission to edit the created pipelines. It can't edit it. And also it can't edit the variable groups. If I try, for example, here to edit this variable in the variable group and save, I don't have permission to perform this operation because my user is in the contributor security group and he doesn't have the permission to edit the variable group or edit the pipeline. So that is the contributor security group. If I return back and make the user in the build administrator, so now I will remove the user from the contributors and put our user in the build administrators. If I return back now, I can now edit the pipelines. If I click here, I can edit it. And I can also edit the variable groups variables. So that is how the security groups permissions works. So let's return back now. I will remove the user Osama from the build administrator security group. And now I want to create our custom security group. I will put our user Osama in the custom security group and give this security group the least privilege for each component in Azure DevOps, in the repos, in the pipelines, in the releases, in the variable groups. So let's create our custom security group. I click on new group and name it Azure DevOps course. That will be the name of our custom security group. And I will put our user Osama in this group. Then create. Okay. Now this user has the least privilege of everything. It is member of the project valid users, which can only read and view the Azure DevOps components. It can only read and view the repos, the pipelines, the releases. It can't create, it can't delete, it can't edit, can't do anything except viewing. So if I return back to the user Osama, now the user can't run pipelines, can't edit, can't create, it can only read. So in the next lecture, we will start giving the custom security group we created the least privilege for each Azure DevOps component. We will start with the pipelines and the releases and the environments. Then we will go to the variable groups and the rest of the components. So that is what we will do in the next lecture. So I hope you enjoy it and see you in the next lecture.